Hello everyone, welcome to Radically Loved Radio. I wanted to create a place where people can go to get inspired, get motivated, or find some clarity and get tools to create a radically loved life. I will do my best to provide information on a variety of subjects, including yoga, holistic health, life coaching, spirituality, meditation, and overall mindful living. Each episode will bring you some of the world's best spiritual leaders, entrepreneurs, yoga teachers, coaches, along with some of my closest friends, and we will talk about their life experiences and journeys to create something more out of their lives and how they continue to grow to make that happen. Hey guys, Rosie here. I just want to say I am so grateful that you're listening. We are just getting a massive amount of response on this podcast, and I am so grateful that you're a part of this radically loved community, that you're enjoying the content and that you're enjoying all the guests and that you're still here and you're still working on yourself and your journey and your path. And I pray that you've received some tools listening to the guests or listening to any of my ideas or topics on meditation or yoga and how these tools can help you create a life of purpose. To continue to help us give you the best content, you can subscribe to this podcast, and most of the time you can just do it from your phone, from iTunes. Click subscribe and write a review. This really helps us continue this path and this journey, and we love doing it so much. And again, I'm so grateful that you're here. Let us know what you thought. Thanks for listening.
F this shit, I'm curing myself.
Oh my goodness, I love that you say F this shit. I'm like, wait, why can't you just say the F word? I guess whatever. Like, we try to keep the lyrics clean on this podcast, my friends. But the book is called F This Shit, I'm Curing Myself, and it is so good. I mean, I want you to tell everyone, first of all, who you are and what you're doing on this podcast. And just, tell us your journey and how you got to be to where you are now. And just side note, I'm really excited to have you on. You've been a long time listener from what I understand. And it's so fun for me to actually have somebody who's listened to this podcast and who is also an author and who is setting out to do incredible things in the world. So sorry, I'm like just introducing you. That's who you are. I'm ready.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. I had it like in my agenda. I was like, it's Rosie Day. Oh my god! And then I've been looking forward to this for weeks. So yes, I'm Trach. In short, I work as like a wellness coach, and health advocate, and eternal optimist at kellytrach.com, where I help people heal for real. So in terms of my health story, about 10 years ago, I remember sitting like in class feeling this tingling in my fingers, and it was sort of the point where I was like, okay, what the hell is this? Okay, maybe I should finally like go see a doctor and like actually look into this, because I was feeling off for a really long time, and I kind of just pushed it away. And by off, I mean like I was really exhausted, and I was sleeping enough, and I was, I felt like I kind of just couldn't keep up, and I would see people like running around or like going for a run, and I was like, I don't know why you guys do that, because like that seems like way too much effort. And I had these insane headaches, and I had this like crazy brain fog, but at the time I just thought that was like, caffeine withdrawal, and I felt really sick every time I ate, and I kind of just assumed that's how people felt after they ate, like tired and lethargic and slow and bloated and in pain. And I kind of, once I had hit the point with my fingers tingling, I was like, okay, maybe I should just go in and see a doctor. And that's sort of when it all started. I ended up playing what I call Dr. Hopscotch, when you just like endlessly bounce through medical appointments trying to get answers. And I mean, I'm very lucky because I live in Canada and healthcare is free. So I just saw everybody I could possibly talk to, like started with the GP and getting the GP's opinion, and then, going to
And you were
the
seeing
neurologist.
you were seeing these GPs for what? For like all the symptoms you were having, the tingling and
Yeah, like I would go in and I was like, well, I was younger at the time, and I was like, I'm feeling this tingling in my fingers. They're like, okay, like, well, what else is, happening? I was like, well, I feel tired, and I feel like in pain when I eat, and I'm not feeling very good these days. I'm feeling kind of slow, and I feel like I've been gaining a lot of weight lately, and then they'd be like, oh, are you just stressed out from school? Like, are you sleeping enough? And it's like, well, yeah. And they're like, okay, well, let's do some blood work and get you on iron. You look anemic. Like, what are you eating? I'm like, oh, I'm eating vegetarian diet. And they're like, okay, well, you're probably anemic. But like, that kind of wasn't it. So I had spent like 10 years of my life just trying to figure out what the hell I had and how to fix it. Because at one point, through my Dr. Hopscotch, I was in the ER one night because my pains in my stomach were really bad after, honestly, I was eating gluten. And I have celiac disease now, but like nobody really knew what it was. And I went to the ER and I was like, hey guys, like I'm in a ton of pain. And they're like, well, take these T3s. And if you feel better, you just have to go home because like we don't know what's wrong and there's nothing we can really do with you. And like, that's it. And then I remember taking the T3s, and then you feel pretty good after you take like 3 T3s in the ER, and then they sent me home, and it was like I don't know what you guys don't get, but like something is not right here. And when you have like a bunch of different symptoms that are sort of hard to classify or like put your finger on, stuff like, having like funky gas or like weird bowel movements or like always getting sick and having these bizarre symptoms, people just kind of just brush you off because it's really vague. And what it ended up being was my autoimmune disease, which is celiac disease. I also have Raynaud's disease, which is like part of it. It's an autoimmune condition, but it accounts for the tingling in my hands and my feet, and this numbness that I get quite a bit. And I ended up having IBS and candida and leaky gut, and I have like 8 food allergies and sensitivities, and it just ended up being like my gut being a total mess, and I just tried literally all the things I could get my hands on and books I could find at the library to figure out what the hell was going on. And things started to improve when I changed what I was eating, like changed how I thought about my body and changed what kind of like chemicals I was putting in my body. And that's literally it. And that's what the book is about.
Wow. I mean, that's so, and part of it was like, it's so good just to kind of hear how you transitioned from, wanting to figure out what it was and just not getting the answers that you knew you were having. So how exactly like, what was the process in you, like, really figuring out, like, what was happening?
Yeah, totally. So I would get referred to a lot of specialists, and because like usually the GP will not know what's happening, and they'll send you to a specialist, and then you talk with them. And then in the beginning, I was like, I don't even know what these words that they're using, and I, at the time, was really shy, and I was like, well, I don't know how to speak up and like say, oh, sorry, can you clarify that? So I would just go home and like try to Google stuff so I could be better educated next time to know what they were saying. And once I started, going down the rabbit hole of the internet, I'd start reading like other people's blogs and then books that they recommend. And then I would, I would go to the library and see what they had in like the health section. And then, you start with sort of one. I remember my first starting book was actual book was Terry Wall's, the Wall's Protocol. And she's a functional medicine MD who has MS, and she cured herself through food. And that was like the first book that I read on somebody else who had like sort of similar stuff to what I had, because MS is also an autoimmune condition, and she healed herself through food. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And she's also a doctor, like a legitimate doctor. And that's when I started reading her stuff. And then I started and then once you sort of read one, you kind of learn about other people.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then I ended up finding like Dr. like Mark Hyman, and then you find Dr. like Amy Myers, who are also, they're both like in the functional medicine space, and then I found Dr. Andrew wheel. And I don't know if you've ever been in Santa Monica to True Foods Kitchen.
I have,
Um,
yes. They have them
oh my
everywhere
God, it's my
now.
favorite
They have
restaurant.
them. They have them
Oh,
everywhere. Like,
really?
yes, I mean, when we were in Texas, like they had them, and it was really awesome because they're opening different locations. Yeah, so it's really good. So continue. Yes, True Foods is the best.
Yeah, True Foods is the best. See, that's the kind of stuff we don't get up here in
That's what I
Canada
want
that
to
makes me
talk to
really
you about
sad.
because I'm so curious because we have so much access to. Well, I mean, I should clarify that because I've been traveling the U.S. for the last 4.5 months, and I know that there are certain places in the U.S. that you cannot get healthy food, or it's just really hard to get fresh produce. But
Yes.
I know living in LA or even when I was living in Portland, it was so easy to get clean and healthy organic food or to go to a restaurant that had like gluten-free options or vegan options
Hmm.
and it actually be good food. So what's it like up in Canada? Like do you guys have the same is there like the same sort of attention and awareness around health and wellness as there is here in the US?
Yeah, I'd say so for sure. Vancouver is where I live in Vancouver. Vancouver is like a mini. It's like super west coast. So it's like really close to like what it's like to be in like LA or San Francisco. Everybody is extremely health conscious. Lululemon is founded here in Vancouver, so um, you can just take that and expand it to what Vancouver is like in general. So a lot of super healthy people and tons of goal setting and like lots of places to get green juice. So it's good, but we just don't have um, like because we are like a huge country and we don't have very many people.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a lot of space between everybody, so we don't have a lot of the brands that you guys carry in the U.S.
Oh, I
The big
see.
stuff.
Yeah.
So every time I go to like a Whole Foods in the U.S., it's like I'm in a candy store because there's all these cool new things I haven't tried. And we also don't have things like well, in Vancouver we don't have Amazon like fresh, and because it's just everything's really quite expensive to ship, so we don't have like Instacart or any of that kind of stuff. But that's okay. That's the the premium upper level tier. But we're we're very health conscious people.
That's, I mean, I'm so curious because I've only been to Canada once, and I really like have been wanting to go back. Um, I've never been to Vancouver, so I'm really curious as to what it's like up there. I know that there's a really big yoga scene. I know that a lot of my friends go up there quite often. I know that Wanderlust does a big uh,
Mhm.
Wanderlust fest up there. So that's
Yeah.
that's really cool. And so now so how are you taking everything that you learned and bringing it out for the world to reap the benefits from your experience?
Yeah, totally. I get that. This is like not at all what I set out to do. I was very much like type A. Like I started like gunning it really hard in high school. Like I had like my eye on the prize. I knew what school I wanted to get into, which was just like our
Hmm.
local University of British Columbia. But I really wanted to get into the business school, which is like really okay. It's hard because in Canada a lot of people don't know because we're not at all like Ivy League, and it's like if you don't I don't know. Anyways, being a Canadian and living in the U.S. at one point, it's like if you're not from an Ivy League school, nobody knows who you are. But UBC is actually a really, really good school, and the business school acceptance rate is like 6%.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and now that you have to actually not you have to interview to get in, and it's really competitive. And I was like, oh, I really want to go to this local business school. It's really good. So I worked my butt off in high school, which is when I started getting like my autoimmune symptoms.
Hmm.
And something else I want to talk to you down the road later is about like, you and your broken wing when you're gunning it really hard and the universe is like, okay, I'm going to send you some stuff. So then I pushed really aggressively. Then I did like all the things in university,
Hmm.
still doing everything kind of to the max. I went to school like on full scholarship and I graduated on the dean's list and I was like, okay, I had like my name signed to go work full time in like a special marketing rotational program, which, when you come from business school, it's like, yay, you got into one of the big programs. Like, good for you. Like, you're amazing. Like, all the younger kids are gonna look up to you. And then a couple months before my start date, I had a breakdown. I was like, whoa, like I cannot do this. Like entrepreneurship is kind of always in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up doing a total switch and moving down to the Bay Area, and working on my tech startup ideas, which revolved around the future of food and very different stuff as to what I'm doing now. But I was also like, I was working on a couple different things. I was really passionate about it, but after like several different iterations, what I had finally got to was I was working on this like payment gateway so that Americans, so people on EBT cards, on food stamps, could use them online so they could get access to fresh food in food deserts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working on trying to figure that out. And then I remember at one point, there was this moment where I was like, I had come home for a week to Canada, to my boyfriend's cabin, which is like literally in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, I don't want to work on this right now. Like I do not want to do this. And you know what it's like when you have that resentment towards work, when you feel like you have to do it, but you really don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that feeling, and then, yeah, and I had that feeling really loud and clear. And then I kind of had this voice out of like my own head. It was like, well, what if your life was easy? Like, what if you just did what you were good at? Like, who would you be if you could just like be yourself and like teach what you know?
Yeah.
And then I was like, then I had like really thought about it, because I was like, well, the only thing I really know, like in my whole life, is figuring out my body and like how to live a functional life. And you know, it's not as sexy as getting into Y Combinator or like getting my MBA at Stanford, or you know, trying to like get into like Singularity Use program. Like, what if I just did this? And it was like, whoa. I had to get over the ego bit.
Yeah.
Because my ego was super, super attached to my San Francisco identity.
Yeah, and that's sort of part of this whole idea of like being able to put your energy into something that's gonna benefit you and your health, as opposed to just letting your mind or your ego get in the way of just what we think success should look like, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
for sure.
So how are you finding the balance now in your life, and what is it that you want to continue to create? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, the balance is good. The balance has been, now it's on the flip side where like I'm absolutely obsessed with it and I love it. And, you know, my living now is like writing books, making courses, and like serving like an audience. And my audience is mostly people who are kind of like struggling with health issues and are just not sure why they feel off, or like what to do about it, or like where to start. So I just try to provide kind of like a starting point for people to kind of get educated and get resources so they can sort of, you know, be more informed when they go speak to their doctor, or, you know where to start to even pick up a book on like functional medicine. And just kind of like a home base is what I wanted to create, just something like that I would have liked, 10 years ago when I started doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love doing this. I have goals to take it up, like a lot of notches.
Like what? Tell us.
Okay, well, really, I guess, nobody really knows this, so I guess I'll announce it on your show.
You're about to tell everyone what you're doing, so do it.
Yeah, so next up is a podcast,
Yes.
And down the road, I would love, like a proper book deal, because proper book deal and a proper, and a cookbook deal, and do, and speak full time for a living, helping other people, rock their best life, and also work a little bit more deeper into the mindset behind healing, because I feel like that is really not often addressed enough, and starting with your mind first.
I think that a lot of the times people in this field think that being a certain age is going to add validity to your knowledge. And I will be the first person to tell you, it doesn't matter how many birthdays you've celebrated when you have life experience. So
Yeah.
I think that you should definitely own that and not recoil when anyone asks you that, because I think that it to me, being in this field for as long as I have and being in the health and wellness industry for as long as I have, I really feel so hopeful and so inspired when I hear about these revelations in the younger generation. Because for me, I wish it would have happened sooner. I mean, it happened when it happened, and that's what it was. But like, I feel like there has to be more people realizing this and more people talking about it. And I love everything that you're talking about. I mean, I just got a partnership with Thrive Market, and
Oh, yeah.
I really love working with them. I mean, they are such an incredible company,
Yeah.
and not only do they work directly with actual the brands, which is why they can give such a huge
Mhm.
discount. But they also do so much with working with communities and working with families in need. I mean, this is Gunnar, the one of the founders,
Yes.
is big
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
this, right? So he actually we did an interview that will come out soon after this comes out, so
Ooh.
everyone listening can look out for that, because it's going to be really, really great. It's a great interview, and he talks about why he started the company and what it's all about, and with in regard to using EBT cards, the we would call like the food stamp cards for families in need. They'll be able to go on there and buy produce and buy good, healthy,
Mhm.
clean, organic food directly, from online, which is, where a lot of people buy most of their things. And if they don't have access
Mhm.
to a healthy food store, now they have access to Thrive Market. So I always have to just talk
Mhm.
about it, because for me, it's like, and we get, our listeners in particular get an extra 25% off plus free shipping if they go to thrivemarket.com/Rosie. They can get an extra 25% off, and they can check out to see if they like the membership. And it's really great. And for every membership that people buy, a family in need gets a free membership. So it's like you buy one and then somebody else that's in need gets one. And it's just, I've seen what they've done, Kelly, and it's incredible. So again, I'll just,
Mhm.
if anybody's interested, if they want to check it out, it's www.thrivemarket.com/Rosie if they want to check it out. But going back to what you were talking about, in regard to your age, and look, whether you want to talk about this on this podcast or not, I think it's important, because I actually have a lot of questions to ask you in regard to just, like where your generation is at mentally, you know? Because I think it's such a huge, it's so important, you know?
Yeah, I think. Well, I know for myself, it's hard to speak to everybody in like a broad term, but I would say from myself and my friends, I'd say we're a pretty like with it group.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, yeah. I honestly, I see a lot of hope for the future. I know, I think there's a lot of really great stuff coming, and I feel like the way that my generation thinks is like it just elevated on another level. Like sometimes I got to see things that my friends are building and making and like doing with their lives. Like one of my friends in my like weekly mastermind, like she's building, like she'll build like apps during her like her spare time at her like internship at Intel, and like she's still in school, and I'm always like whoa, you just built that in your spare time, like to serve other people, like that's so cool. Or just like new ways. I have a couple of friends working in new ways of growing food and like in more advanced technology, so more people can have access to food. And like the amount of knowledge my friends have, like I'll ask my friends first about what I'm like, hey, like give me some more input on like what you know about like just different ways of like loving and like
Mm-hmm.
even I've been learning about like polyamorous relationships, and like my friends are just so like open and like such broad knowledge. And like I went to like a barbecue on the weekend, and one of my friends, same age as me, he's like, oh yeah, my TED Talk. I'm like, oh my god, you have a TED Talk. And I just have so much hope when I see such like cool people in you know, my age, like plus or minus 5 years, doing really advanced stuff with their lives, where I think, like, you know, man, like it's such a cool time to be alive because people are creating amazing stuff.
Yeah. That's incredible, because even when we first got on the phone, you're like, "Oh, I was working on my desire map this morning and I was journaling," and I'm just like, "Oh, I didn't even know what I wanted to do." When I was 24, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew I wanted to be in the realm of helping people and working with people, but I wasn't fully clear on what I wanted. And you know, I'm like, back then, like it wasn't that long ago, but I mean, even 10 years ago, it was, we didn't have as much access to all the different courses online that you can take now, and all the different coaches that are out there, and all
Yeah.
the great books that are out. I mean, it was different, you know. It was a little bit different back then, and things have grown so much since that, and it just makes me so happy to hear. Well, that's why I really loved reading your book, and I can feel the tenacity, and I can feel the drive and the desire, and I love that so much, and I
Thank
love it
you.
even more knowing that you just turned 24. Like that makes me, I'm not kidding, it makes me so happy, and I just want everyone to see that there is hope for this next generation, that you are all on your path to awakening and being more aware and creating change and making a difference, and just, you know, being the new change makers in the world. So thank you for that. That's
Thank
so
you.
incredible. I'm so happy.
Oh, that's so. Oh, I appreciate that. That's so kind of you. It's always like, I mean, I feel, I don't like, I've always felt old. Like, I don't know how to articulate that properly, but I feel like I am like 35. Like, I've always felt
I love that you
older.
said old and you're like 35. That's like a year older than me.
Well,
How about like
older. Like,
you
I've always
felt
felt older.
like an old
I think,
soul?
yeah, like an old soul. Like, I mean, you know, everybody, like, my boyfriend's a lot older than me, and like, you know, my friends are like, they're also kind of like old souls. I don't know. I just feel like maybe that's a part of the younger generation. Kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's a testament to like growing up faster and with more resources and more education, like
Yeah.
more access to education, like online and through YouTube, and like, you know, growing up more in the digital space. I would say, yeah. Actually, I wonder if my other friends feel like that too, where we feel more older than we actually are. Because, you know, I don't know. I feel like I think looking, not that I know, but like looking at people who are a lot younger than me, like sometimes I'll see girls like I live near high school, and I'll see girls that are in high school, and I think, man, they look like they're 25. And I wonder if, like, you know, growing up online, or like growing up with access to like Instagram when you're in like elementary school makes you grow up a lot faster. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I'm curious about that. How has being part of the digital age informed your formative years, your growing, your the way that you see the world?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Well, it's all I've like ever known, so I don't have anything to compare it to. I feel like, well, like I mean, I don't know. Oh man, I actually don't. Trying to find something to say about that, because I feel like my immediate answer is like, oh, like this all I know, and it's just the way it is. But
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it's
just
true though. I mean,
access.
yeah, like so here's the
Yeah.
thing, like it's, you really don't have any other way of knowing how to be. That's just been, it's so, you know, I, my little sister Reggie just recently moved in with Tori and I, and so we've acquired a teenager. You know, she just turned 19. She graduated last year from high school, and it's a different way of being. But you know,
Hmm.
it makes me happy to know that she's not an anomaly. This girl is so smart, and she's way, way wiser than I was at that age by a long shot, and so aware, and has really, really good observative skills, but can also spend hours on her phone, like
Mhm.
hours. And it's just, and doing, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I know she's just screwing around because I can hear her in her room just like laughing, you know? Um,
Mhm.
and other times, like she's researching things, or she's looking certain things up. She just started school, so she's now doing that. But I love the awareness there is around, not allowing what you see, not allowing the highlight reel that we see in other people's lives inform how we want to be. I feel like,
Mhm.
you guys have a really great platform to begin to change that. And I think that people like you and your friends are. That's why I'm so happy that you're listening to this podcast, or that you're doing the desire map, and you follow Tim Ferriss's ways, like that you're part of this world of self-development at a young
Mhm.
age. I love that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's also like I said, it's all I've ever known. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like when you don't know, like my immediate answer is like, oh well, like I'll just Google it, or like I'll find a free YouTube tutorial, or like I'll just look at somebody else's blog and see if they have any resources for something else, and it's
yeah,
just sort of
yeah.
yeah, getting my forever like my go to input is like, well, who do the thought leaders that I follow online say, and like you have so much there's so much like free education and knowledge online that it's it's like my autumn like sometimes I think about, you know, would I even do traditional school again? Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I don't want to keep you, and I want to respect your time, and I have a couple more questions because you've gone through such a tumultuous journey with your own health. I'm curious if there's a philosophy or some words of wisdom that you live by now.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, it's always been the same, and it's just don't worry, everything will be amazing.
That's a really great. I was gonna say that's a really good tattoo, but then I thought, I'm like, wait, that's a really good poster. I'm like, I never want to be like part of like the encourager to put something permanent on your body. That, hey, if that's what you want to do, that's great. So that's awesome. That's beautiful. What advice would you give your 15-year-old self now?
Oh man, probably to dial it back and chill a little bit more.
Because of the type A thing.
Yeah, because of the type A thing,
Uh,
which is like super deeply ingrained into me, and I just accept.
well, that's good, but you're aware of it. That's always the first step. What advice what
Exactly.
advice will your 35-year-old self tell you now?
Probably also to just chill out and dial it back, and that everything's gonna happen when it happens.
Oh my goodness. Kelly, you are so amazing. Where can people find you and get your book or get more information about you? And I know that you do coaching, so tell us where to go.
Yeah, everything is just on kellytrach.com, and that's Trach, not a K. Or at kellytrach on Instagram, KarrieCH. And yep, it's all that all the time.
All that all the time. Great. And you're pretty active on social media because I know we interact on there a lot. So, um, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you were on here. Thank you so much for not only being a listener, but also being an incredible guest and for doing the work that you're doing. I'm so inspired by you, and I'm so grateful that you're doing what you're doing. I want you to keep it up, and I'm so excited to see what flourishes for your future.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I just love your show and I love your work, and I always enjoy listening to your stuff. And I think you have the best laugh. Like when you kind of get like a little bit squeaked, like kind of get high pitch, and then it's the cutest. I think it's the best.
Well, my dear, it was great talking to you. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am so excited to continue to do this. Please share this with your friends. Email us, message us on Instagram at Rosie Acosta or on Twitter at Rosie Acosta. Subscribe on iTunes, write a review. We love doing this, so please help us continue to keep this podcast going. Thanks for listening.